So during a class, Ruth, there was a motion that we were doing that I found really interesting, so we're going to work on that.
Okay.
And I'm pretty sure you were there, Kay, too, so I don't have to go over that class, right?
Okay. I'm brain dead, but if you kind of briefly mentioned, I'll remember probably.
So
What class was that?
Monday, you would grab
What?
the Joe, right, and you would turn to do, you were doing, I think you're going into the 10 count with it. But you would use the Joe and you would turn and jump around it. That, the grab. So we're going to start, you take your hand and you grab with your pinky. So your pinky leads the motion and it starts to pull to your wrist. And just keep doing that and let it exaggerate so the wrist bends and everything, because we're going to let it bend even further. Just do that for a little bit. And it might help if you start with the meat of the hand, so that rolls to the pinky, to the hand. And right now, just the wrist, okay? We're going to get there.
Oh, I feel like I'm wrapping myself around the Joe, yes.
Yep, that's kind of the interesting thing.
It's hard for me to not wrap myself around the Joe.
Well, part of it is control. Don't let it go past, so your shoulders relax. So you don't let it go to your shoulder or past your shoulder.
Thank you.
And then relax your elbows so it doesn't go to the elbow. So you can control how far it goes.
Yeah.
It's amazing how my right hand, my right wrist, so much tighter than the left.
Well, this is a stretch, kind of.
Yeah. I feel it. Yeah, the left hand I have a hard time getting around. The right, not so much. It's easier.
So where does the left hand pull?
It feels like it pulls up the back of this, like these tendons are not as stretched out.
So once it starts pulling, relax your elbow some, so your elbow's more
Okay.
flexible, and then pull it again.
Okay.
That way you can stretch a little more.
Yeah.
Until it's easy.
Yeah, it's probably my left hand's really tight or something. But yeah, relaxing helps.
Yeah, and if it were pulling more along the tendons in your hand, then you'd want to relax your wrist.
Yeah,
So your wrist can go further.
I feel that, yeah. Well, because I didn't get to ride my horse today. Yeah. Work my hands.
Sure.
Sure. I'll make up an excuse.
All right, so now, as it's pulling, put a little tension in the elbow, so the elbow goes.
Okay.
Not much, just a little bit. It should start to pull the elbow forward.
Interesting. The hair's trying to go up into my shoulder.
Yep.
Yeah.
So relax. Make sure your shoulders are not tense. You have to remove as much tension as possible from them, so it doesn't go there.
Okay. That's an interesting stretch.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm remodeling, see if that helps.
Yeah, I was putting my speaker a little bit closer. Might be better.
Sorry, I'm not using a headset this time. When I was going through the video from Chotensei's, I realized that my headset cuts in and out a lot. I need to get a new one.
Yeah. You sound perfectly clear today.
This is just the laptop mic.
Huh? Good.
When I'm not sure you can adjust the microphone volume.
You can.
You can?
Yep.
Especially on Zoom, I think. But on your computer too.
In the OS you can, yeah. Alright, so now add a tiny bit of tension into the shoulder so it starts to pull the shoulder.
I'm having a done putting tension into it. I've got me all relaxed now.
Yep. And you can let the air, like, I know most of our stuff we keep our arms close. Here, it's going to flare a little bit. Just so we exaggerate the shape.
Okay.
And your hips now have to be relaxed so it doesn't pull into your hips.
Uh-oh, you saw that, huh?
So the assumption here today is that unless we are prompted, nothing else is invited on this trip.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Even your lower back relax, Kay.
Ah, of course there's somewhere else that's tensing up. Yeah, I could feel that, you're right.
At
Okay.
most, it should go to your shoulder blade.
Okay, yes, okay. And drop the back, leave the back. This has always been my problem. I tend to engage everything and not realize I'm doing that.
Well, because of that is why I found it interesting during the class, because my whole body moved when I did this.
Yeah,
But now we're going to study how and why, and how we can use it.
and how we can control it.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel it as soon as my shoulder goes, my lower back wants to tense. So just the shoulder blade. Okay.
Let me know when you got that worked out, because then we will add tension to that area.
You're messing with me. Yeah, let me do a couple more.
Okay.
Yeah. One side's definitely easier than the other. Okay, I got it.
Okay, so now add a little tension to the lower back, so it makes it to the lower back, but not the hips. So it should pull on your lower back, but not turn the hips, basically.
It's a nice little diagonal kind of hug.
Yep.
Yeah. This is actually really cool, Gary.
And actually, at this point, you have a choice. You can let it pull on the same side, which is more of an up, or you can let it pull across your body, which is a diagonal.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Right now, let's start with the diagonal, because the end result's a little more interesting for me.
So, you go from your shoulder blade down to this side, this lower back side.
This shoulder
Or how-
blade, this lower back,
Yeah. Okay.
which gives us kind of angle.
Kind of lifts. It sort of lifts. Yeah. Tends to lift me in a way like that. If I exaggerated it.
And then you want to keep the hip relaxed so it doesn't pull your hip out of place yet. And I mean, this kind of work, if we were in person, you could let people put locks on you, and if you can control your body enough, you can stop the lock from going to any other part of the body. You can choose where it goes
Ah.
by not allowing tension to occur in spots. Whereas a lot of times in Aikido, we are a whole unit. The whole thing moves. Systema is the opposite, where everything moves separate. But then you probably want to be able to do both and variants of both and all that kind of stuff. All right, and now the next step is put a tiny bit of tension into your hips. So it pulls to your hip, but not your knees. So your knees have to be relaxed. Which means you're not going to move that much, your hip, right?
Yeah.
And don't worry about turning your head, because your head's out of the equation for this, for the most part.
Okay.
The thinking part is involved.
Yeah. Trying to figure this out. Like my head has
But-
to move for my body to move.
Ideally, your neck should be relaxed enough that pulling the shoulder doesn't pull the neck. Unless you want it to. And since our hand is starting the motion, it all goes below where the head is.
Theoretically.
That's where you use your imagination, Kate.
Yep.
Imagine your neck's relaxed.
Well, now imagine it harder.
Exactly.
So, actually, try that. Tense this part of your neck so it connects to the shoulder. And then pull. And then your head moves.
Not a problem.
Right? And it's not a lot of tension, just a little bit. So it's connected to the shoulder and then your head moves. But if you don't have that there, which is the other thing to try, the head doesn't move when the shoulder moves. Because that part is intense.
Much easier to tense everything up. I've been sitting in my chair too much, man. I went hiking today and it felt so good, but I was like, oh my gosh, I'm out of shape.
Whole body is only useful if you can actually control it.
True. Got a point there.
Try telling that to the body.
Yeah. Body said, no, I should engage completely.
Welcome, Joe. You.
I prefer, oh. So much for this mental stuff. all physical.
So now the next step is a little bit of tension in your knees, but not your ankles.
Ah,
So it should pull to your knee. And there's only so much you can move before it starts to move. Before it starts to tense the ankle, so stop.
So you're getting a little bit of rotation in your kneecap, right?
Correct. But not a whole lot, because if I rotate too much, the ankle kicks in.
Right, right. So it's primarily the hamstrings and the quads that are kind of torquing a little bit.
Yep.
It's a
And
great
after this.
meditation practice.
So one part of this that might be difficult is your calves have to be relaxed. Which for lots of people is difficult.
yeah. Mine are never relaxed. I don't know how to relax my calves.
Well, when it starts to pull on your calf, you've identified the spot. The same way you
Yeah.
relax every other muscle. You send it a command.
Sometimes for relaxing the calves, I find that lifting the toes from the mat and kind of spreading them a little bit, and then putting it down gently to kind of
We'll try that without shoes on.
Without shoes, you should be able to feel the bottoms of your feet, and your weight distribution shouldn't really be changing much.
No. No.
If it is, your calves are probably tight. Or your ankles.
My butt's tight. I find my glutes are tightening up. Doing that. Are they supposed to be?
Your hip should tighten, not your butt.
Okay. Okay.
And the tightening is just a tiny bit. So everything connects. That's its only purpose.
I just realized half an hour into what we're doing that I'm really pushing on the poor Joe.
Yeah. I'm like, ugh.
I'm like,
It should be relaxed.
what?
It should be relaxed.
Well, it was not necessarily not relaxed, but I think that by pushing, I mean that I was giving weight to
Yeah.
the Joe.
But that's what I mean by I'm not using the Joe for anything other than something to go around.
Right.
So right
That's
now,
fine.
even
Just to, you know,
And when you said that, thinking of going around, then it
Mhm.
helps pull that line better. Versus just trying to wrap myself around it, I think about going around it and it pulls.
well, ideally, what you want is for when this pinky gets pulled, with that little bit of tension, everything moves around.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
And you can even try pulling the pinky and seeing, right? Can you get that to really drive the motion around?
Yeah.
But only as far as you want. Which is right now the knees.
Yeah.
Do you find, Gary, when you're doing this, that you get to that point, the lowest, most point you're interested in, quicker each time? Or do you still are keeping the kind of the progression the same as it was at the very beginning?
Right now I'm keeping the progression the same, but
Okay?
obviously application, right? Everything has to go together. Kind of.
Yeah.
But since I'm really trying to study how each part's being pulled against the other, I'm going slow and being deliberate. And now, a little tension in your calves and your ankles, and let it go to your feet. And now, because my whole torso is turning, everything's turning, my head turns. But it's not like it's being pulled. It's just my head's staying forward and the rest of my body is going.
This one was much easier for me.
Make sure the other side's relaxed.
You would have to find something.
Right now it's one line. Everything else is
Oh, yeah.
unrelated.
Darn.
Because it's not about becoming a single unit, it's about
I know.
connecting what you want to connect. And this was the thing that I found really fascinating about this shape in the class, is as I turned around it, it would pull enough that my leg wants to release and turn. And that's really exaggerating it, right? But you can turn enough that that leg wants to move. The one that you're pulling, the opposite side.
How do you release the foot though? Because I find that both of them are really planted.
So as this pull occurs, it's kind of like the little toe gets turned around. This leg is pretty planted. So it's not like an easy turn, right? That's why there's this little stumble, because this leg is unrelated to everything right now.
Right.
If I wanted it to be easier, I would let that build up and then go to like the ball of the foot. On the foot that's planted.
Right, right.
Yeah. But it should be difficult because, like I said, this other side of the body is not engaged in this
Right.
until you let it, well, until you change it a little bit.
So, when you're going cross body like that, is it going to the other leg?
So this arm, this leg.
Yeah. Okay.
So pinky, wrist, elbow, shoulder, shoulder blade, lower back on the opposite side, hip on that side, the muscle here that I forgot the name of, the knee,
Bye.
the thigh, the knee, the calf, and then it goes and pulls down to the foot.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think I'm doing this wrong. I'm doing everything on the side of the hand.
So that's another way to do it, which we can do. So
Okay, now I'm going to do the other thing that you guys have been doing.
if it's all on the same side, I start to turn inward.
Right.
If it's across the body, I'd start to turn outward a little bit. Same concept. So if it's all on the same side, I basically let it turn until this leg's heavy and then switch to the ball a little bit. And then the other leg's light. If I'm going across body, it pulls that leg around, the opposite leg. So it's slightly different as far as
Yeah.
that shape's concerned. For me, the cross body is more natural. But that was probably because of training to learn cross body stuff, which was a big focus for a short while. Calvin has said before that the same side he finds easier.
Yeah, we get together too long with it.
Maybe for a month when Sensei was working on crossbody stuff, when I'd sit on the L, I would turn my leg across my body and try and get it to move my arm. So I spent a lot of time trying to make that work. And then it became wired that way. I'm pretty sure up until that point we did same side a lot. The difficulty with the crossbody is you really have to make sure that the opposite lower back and hip are relaxed, which I don't think is as much a concern on same side. So for the next few, really think of, really feel what happens to the foot, because you're going to need it in a minute.
I'd start going and then I'd find, oh shoot, there's always tension everywhere else. Crap.
And also realize, like, so I'm assuming you're both doing crossbody and same side, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the feeling on the foot's different, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now,
Yeah.
if we understand it, we should be able to reverse it. So start from the foot
Oh.
to go up the body. You can do same side, you can then do crossbody. So, same side.
Ah. Interesting. So you're starting the movement from your foot
Yep, basically from
angle.
my little toe wrap.
Oh.
Like it's not actually wrapping around, but there's a shape where it presses into the ground.
Yeah.
I start with that, up the leg, up the hip, up the same side because I'm going same side, out the elbow to the finger,
Okay.
and then crossbody. It was pulling outward, so
Yeah.
there's this sweep that occurs to go over to the arm, at least for me, because the leg turned kind
Right.
of that way versus that way.
Yeah.
So I
This
looked
is
at
really hard for me.
which part.
Actually, the whole thing. So I'm trying to figure out, as we were doing it, let's think about the same side for
Okay.
a second. So you start the way we were doing before. We start from the pinky, engage the elbow, then the shoulders,
Mhm.
then the hips, right?
Yep.
Then we go down to the knee, the calves, and eventually the floor. So when we're starting, do I start from the position in which I'm already torqued, or do you want to start from the position where you are still very relaxed and just holding the gel,
Relaxed and standing.
relaxed and standing? So as you start to rotate the ankle,
Yep.
do you want to feel it immediately on your pinky, or do you start?
We start moving all the way up. So then it comes out the elbow, up to my hand, to the pinky.
Okay. So you
So,
start with the ankle,
well,
then you,
I'm
then you
starting,
do-
so on same side, I'm starting from the big toe, because that's really how I felt it turning in.
oh, okay.
The big toe moves and presses into the ground, which turns the ankle, goes up the calf, to the knee, to the thigh, to the hip. The hip starts to pull around, up the back to pull that, basically. So I'm going up the back, but the back's being pulled down. The shoulder's being pulled down. The elbow pulls down, which turns it upward a little bit, to the wrist, to the pinky.
Okay.
I get stuck in the hips. Where they both get tight.
So go to that point.
Yeah.
Once you're there, feel the part that's tight, that you don't want to be tight. And again, you send the same kind of relaxed command. If you can't figure out how to send that, then really tighten that part that you don't want to be tight. As tight as you can, hold it, release it, and remember what that feels like. Because that's the release that you need for relaxing. That's an exaggerated version of it.
Yeah. No, that works. That helps. And it's a side that always happens on this side because of an old injury too. That always gets stiff where I fell off my horse.
Then you
That
have,
part just tends to any tension that just starts seizing up.
then you have to be really specific and pay attention so you can break that habit.
Yeah.
Because it's most likely not the injury, it's probably your recovery to the injury.
Yeah.
So it's what's learned, not what's broken.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree.
Then cross body, we go. So another thing with cross body versus same side with this turn. Same side drives me down, cross body drives me up.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you don't want to let your leg swing, you can turn with the toe and just go onto the heel to let the leg turn more. Or you can let that toe really drive that circle. But then it feels a little bit more like the position is doing it for me than the muscle. So it's a little harder to study it. So we've been doing hand up and around.
Uh-huh.
So then you can go hand under and around. And you should be able to feel it a lot more as long as you let it go one piece after another. And then decide which side you want it to go down.
That's like really awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking all like I was hanging on a joke.
Well,
And you can even, so it's my pinky starting it, but that doesn't mean that my pinky has to be the first thing on the jump also. So you can start with your forearm on the jump and move. You can start with the meat of your hand on the jaw and move. You can start elbow wrapping around. I mean, this starts to teach how do you actually go around something that doesn't want to move, right? And then apply force, because you'll end up applying force in a way that is a little stranger. And then you get to choose how much of your body do you put into that. Is it just the arm? Is it down to your leg? Just the wrist? And then the elbow engages to pull forward, etc.
I get stuck in the shoulder with this, especially when I'm going just the hand. Then I come up here, yeah. So where do you go from there?
So the hand turns and it pulls
Yeah.
pulls my elbow in.
Yeah,
The elbow pulls the shoulder forward.
yeah,
Now this part of my back is being pulled.
yeah. Okay,
And I can let it go up that same side hip
yeah,
to turn the leg.
okay. So that is right.
The other way is to turn it so here it's turning. This is pulling across the back to the other side.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
And the trick is keeping the other side of your body relaxed during this. So you're only using as much as you want.
Yeah. Oh God.
Then of course, right, we have all of our Aikido stuff, which is kind of normal to go around something and come back. But again, you get to control how much of your body engages when you do that.
Yeah.
And with any of them, you can feel how the leg goes. You should be able to start with the leg. The shape's a little different for me. There we go. That's a little closer.
But
And-
you are, you are, as you go from here, you are lifting the back leg, right? Because then you have your weight primarily on the leg that's closest or the side of the arm that you go. Right?
It depends which way, like if I'm going cross body, then my opposite leg lifts.
But,
And this leg drives in a little bit. If I'm going same side, so same side would be, this drives in, but this doesn't lift.
right. So it's almost, in this way, it's almost like bringing Aikido into this a little bit. It's almost like what you do for Koshi, right?
Yeah, you can do that for Koshi. If I go that way, it's, you can do Ikkyo, right?
Right.
And then you get to choose. You get to choose where it originates in your body and how much of your body you put into it. Because right now we're doing it, it originates from, so if I go back to the easier one, it originates from the pinky, originates from the foot. I could also originate from the middle and have both go out at the same time. So right, that would be, so you get to actually choose what part of your body starts it. The elbow could kick off, which starts the pinky, which means the pinky finishes a little before the rest of your leg. That should also mean that if somebody's trying to apply something to you, right, I can then initiate things from other parts of my body after disconnecting what they're doing. They're trying to press into my core. I don't let the core engage, and the rest of my body can fight.
This is a secret to your Aikido, Gary.
There's no secret to my Aikido, okay?
Sure there is. Just the way you move.
So even here, right? The ideal with Kotegaeshi is that it presses here and then kicks my hip out.
Right.
So now I can either disengage from the shoulder, which now you can't get to the core if I want. I can also, so back to, they're hitting the core. I can now start a motion in my elbow to fight outward on both sides. I can take the pinky and wrap it in a way that changes the shape to change what is occurring, and then take the advantage of how they react to it, and so on and so on.
Yeah. So I think what's really interesting about this, besides the study itself, is the fact that for the Ukemi part of the entertainment is the difference between always allowing somebody to do something to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
To allowing somebody to do something to you, and you, through the knowledge of your body, kind of dissipating or moving things around so it has a different effect.
Yep.
And the third one is actually you originate the movement, so you don't wait for them to actually do it for you, and you kind of you lead the movement the way you want it to be applied to your body.
Yeah.
So
And
that's getting really interesting. And it's funny because I was thinking about what you were saying here before, that we can initiate the movement from my pinky here, or I can initiate the movement from my leg. And I was thinking this is the difference between my propelling myself up to take a forward roll with my back foot, right?
mhm.
That second one is actually getting my body in a position in which I can take a much more controlled kind of version of that.
Yep. And then a third, right, is you're now bringing everything together to create the
Right.
shape that you want.
Right, right, right. So that's a really cool thing.
Very cool.
Next.
I need to shake my ankle. It's going, are you kidding me?
How's it doing?
It's doing great.
Kabang. Data.
It's actually doing like this.
Yeah.
So on the side that the ankle's not hurt,
Where's that?
on the side that the ankle's not hurt, try one more thing. So like you're putting Koda Gaishan, right? It hits your core.
Uh-huh.
And then decide, do you go from the core to your front leg, like to the leg that's same side,
Mhm.
or from the core to the other leg? So you can control also that kind of a pathing through your body. So if they want to kick your hip out, you can make your hip come forward. Or you can make your hip go back. But there's this force being applied, and now you adjust what's tight and what's relaxed in your body, and it goes down a different path. And you should be able to do that with pretty much anything being applied to you.
Mhm.
It's being pressed. If I don't want it to go to my core, I can relax the shoulder. If I don't want it to go to my shoulder, I can relax the elbow.
Yep.
I can let it hit me and then choose which direction it goes. And you should also be able to feel what they're trying to do and then decide what you want to actually have happen.
Yep.
So I mean that's where some of the application for this comes. And of course you can do the same thing when you're applying technique. Like wherever there's resistance, you'll feel tightness in your own body and you can change where you go in your body to go around their resistance. I think that's all I got.